Therefore, if it is believed that if the moon is a crescent or waxing or waning, that will have an effect perhaps on your job prospects, or whether or not you'll be married that year, or whether or not you'll die young. All these are believed to be and to have an influence on human affairs. But where did astrology come from, though? Such an ancient system, so old, used throughout the world in many different cultures throughout the millennia. Where has astrology come from? Well, astrology has actually come from another science, which is known as astronomy. Astronomy is defined in the Concise Oxford Dictionary in the following manner. Quote, astronomy, as a noun, science of the heavenly bodies. Close quote. This is taken from the Concise Oxford Dictionary, page 53. So astrology actually developed out of astronomy. What had taken place is that the actual science of astronomy is to watch the configuration of the stars, the configuration of heavenly bodies, and using those configurations as landmarks. So there are people that they travel by camel or by horse, which was also the dominant means of travel for us hundreds of years ago. And when they are traveling at night, in many parts of the world, there are still not sufficient landmarks to indicate north, east, south, or west. Therefore, what they do is, by tracking the particular appearance of a star or set of stars, they are able to find out what time of the day it is, and by tracking the direction that certain stars are traveling as they're moving on their riding mount, they are able to find out what direction they are in. I will give an example. The star Polaris is the brightest star in the night sky on a clear night. If someone should walk towards that star, the Polaris star will appear to ascend upwards. And it will keep ascending upwards until finally one reaches the North Pole. When they reach the North Pole, the Polaris star will be directly above them. Therefore, if someone is able to dictate the direction of the star Polaris, they will be able to find out the rest of the directions. Thus, if someone locates the star Polaris and walks towards it and the star ascends slightly, they will know that the direction that they are walking in at that moment is north. And from that direction, they will be able to find out every other single direction. Once you know one, you will find out all the others. Another important point is that years ago, before we were able to make use of electricity in the form of nuclear power or other forms, our method of telling time was through looking at the appearance of certain stars. So there were certain constellations, and are certain constellations, that appear in certain parts of the night. So Orion's belt will appear in a different part of the night than the Big Dipper. And the Little Dipper will appear in a part of the night that is different to Pisces, for example. Now, by knowing this information, one will then be able to know what time it is at night. So, for example, let us say that the Big Dipper appears at 12 o'clock in the morning and then disappears at 4, for example. Once we see the Big Dipper appearing, or if we already see it present in the sky, we can make the following judgments. 1, that it is either 12 o'clock, or 2, it is after 12 o'clock. And sometimes there will be other stars that will help one to know what the time is for those particular things. So someone can judge the actual time by the stars in the sky and their appearance, whether in daytime or the sun or the moon's position in the sky during the daytime. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us permission to use astronomy in the Quran. He has said to us that astronomy is permissible to use, to guide us along our way, and to help us if we are lost. A passage that we can quote in evidence of this is Surah Al-An'am, the 6th surah, ayah 97. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ النَّجُومَ لِتَهْتَدُوا بِهَا فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ قَدْ فَضَّلْنَا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. It is He who has made the stars for you, so that you be guided in your journeys in the darkness of the land and the sea. Surah Al-An'am, the 6th surah, ayah 97. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that He made the stars so that we might be guided in the darkness of the land and the sea. And one can still see today, for those that have been in the Navy or the Merchant Marines, that most of the calculations that they are using and data is taken from astronomical observations of the sky. So indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has benefited humanity with the ability to use astronomy for acceptable uses. Another evidence for the use of astronomy is in Surah Al-Mulk, ayah 5. Surah Al-Mulk is the 67th surah, and it's in ayah 5. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا بِمَصَابِيحَ وَجَعَلْنَا الرُّجُومَ لِلشَّيَاطِينِ وَأَعْتَدْنَا لَهُمْ عَذَابَ السَّعِيرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, and indeed we have ordained the nearest heaven with lamps, and we have made the lamps as missiles to drive away the demons, and have prepared for them the torment of the blazing fire. Surah Al-Mulk, the 67th surah, ayah 5. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a second purpose regarding the heavenly bodies that appear in the sky, that they are to adorn our sky that we live under, as well as the fact that some of what comes down, the shooting stars or the meteors, are to drive away those demons or those evil forces that mean harm towards human beings. So there is great benefit in the use of astronomy and its uses. In addition to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in putting those stars there and those constellations, what people later did in the later ages was to take certain configurations of constellations and to actually draw lines around them or superimpose shapes around them. And by superimposing these shapes, they would be able to tell what time it was, where exactly they were on Earth, and how far it was from the next destination. So for example, if they were looking at Orion's belt in the sky, and Orion's belt, for example, disappears as you go further east. If someone is journeying east, they will begin and they will be caused to know when they are traveling east as the belt of Orion in the sky begins to fade further and further. Now, 12 configurations were made up for the night sky to be able to tell the time for astronomical data.